Top teams other than the Canucks I'm interested to watch in the playoffs. I know some people think the Canucks aren't in it, I'm not watching the playoffs, but it can be really fun. Pick a player that you really enjoy watching and travel along with them along this journey. It can be, I remember getting my parents who were such diehard Canucks fans, to check out some other teams when the Canucks were terrible and out of it a few years ago. And I was telling them, Bieksa and Burrows, your favorites from the Canucks, they play on other teams. Maybe they'll be in the playoffs. Anyways, they ended up watching Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals go all the way and win a cup, and they had a great time watching it. I've said before how I followed McGillney in his trade from the Canucks to the Devils and got to watch them win a cup. Watching my brother watch Brett Hull and the Dallas Stars win a Stanley Cup. It's a lot of fun. These are the teams I'm interested in this year. Or at least maybe a reason for as many teams as possible to find interesting. Number 1, Carolina. Look at those guys right at the top of the league. The former Hartford Whalers. One of the worst teams in NHL history. Really, overall. The amount of losing they've done is probably in the tops for all-time sports teams, probably in the world. Anyways, Carolina, who's already won a Stanley Cup, which just kind of seems like bullshit. I'll never forget Don Cherry saying, after they won the Stanley Cup, the parking lot, it was like coming out of a movie theater. No excitement. Anyways, Carolina looks pretty damn good this year. And look at the division they're in. Tampa, Florida. Yeah, Nashville's not bad. Dallas went pretty far last year. Chicago's kind of rebuilding. Columbus, they should be better on paper, but they're not. Definitely Tortorella's last year. And then Detroit, who's rebuilding under the genius of Steve Eisman. Carolina's used 3 goalies. They have a cast of players, a lot of them that can do it all. No, sorry, they have a lot of guys that are doing it all kind of together. I'm really excited to see what they can do. They're young. They've brought in some interesting concepts like the storm surge, trying to bring a bit of entertainment back. I think they've gone from being this really boring nothing team to a team that's kind of quirky. They're kind of the hipster team now. And I'm really interested to see what they can do. Can they translate this and become a fucking perennial powerhouse? Because their team is not old. Tampa Bay have been so good the last couple of years and really haven't gotten any worse. Didn't have Stamkos last year and won the Stanley Cup. What are they going to do now that he's back and he's hopefully healthy for the playoffs? I'd love to see what they can do, how far they can go. Can they become a dynasty? Florida, another team like Carolina that's been shitty for the longest time. You want to make fun of Toronto and how long it's been since they've won a first round? Florida, I think, has won like a couple rounds in their whole history down there. They finally have a cool new logo. I was excited when Dale Talon went down there. I like some of his moves, and man, they didn't work out. I guess I wouldn't have made a good NHL GM. But they got some young guys too. Alexander Barkov is getting a lot of notice in the league now as a defensive forward. They've got didn't Aaron Ekblad get hurt? Hopefully he can come back for the playoffs. Their top defenseman. Again, like anytime you can see a young team take that next step, you want to see how far they can go in the playoffs because that's when they really learn. Nashville, I mean, if they could make some noise in the playoffs, I'm not that excited for them. They went to the finals. They're a different team now. They should have started selling on this team a few years ago. Dallas, they had a bit of a Cinderella run. Their team's not getting any better. They're on the decline too. And Chicago, Columbus, Detroit, whatever. Vegas, ever since they came into the league, they've been in the playoffs. They went to the finals their first year they were in the league. And we saw them against the Canucks. They're a tough fucking team. They are built like this combination of old school toughness where they can really bully you. They have so much depth, so much defense. They got guys that old hockey men like, and they've got guys like Marchessault and the other fella that are these sort of statistical pickups that nobody had heard of and thought of, and all of a sudden have become great players and elevated their game. They brought in the big D man, who was a Pietrangelo, and got rid of Schmidt in the process. I mean, if they win the cup now by getting rid of Schmidt, it starts to make you looking at Schmidt a little bit more, and you think, oh, maybe you were more of a problem, and now you're our problem. Anyways, I'd be excited to see them go deep because they beat the shit out of the Canucks, even though the Canucks valiantly stood up to them as much as they could with their roster that's not really equipped to outscore you or outbeat you. But I'm interested to see how far they can go. Colorado, I mean, if they could start taking that next step and go a couple rounds deep, watch out rest of the league because their core is super young again. And they've got an embarrassment of riches on defense as well. And I'd like to see if Nazem Kadri could become a playoff hero instead of a playoff goat that he was for Toronto in those couple of years. Minnesota, I mean, they've played pretty well this year, but I mean, the Canucks beat them last year. They have their Marian Gaborik again. That they got their Kaprizov, the 24-year-old rookie, who has destroyed the competition for that trophy. Not super interested in watching them. I don't think they're going to do much. St. Louis, God, how disappointing is that? You go from last place to winning the cup. You sign your young goalie, who won you the cup. You have to. He's kind of playing in the shitter. What is wrong with this team? I guess, then they trade their they lose their captain to free agency. Well, I'm not really all that interested to see what they're going to do. Pittsburgh. You can't count out Malcolm and Crosby. And I want to see what Hextall and Burke are going to think of this roster going forward. They got, who'd they bring over? The LA guy, Jeff Carter. Jeff Carter's in Pittsburgh. He just had a 4-goal game. I just love Crosby. Crosby is that star that was a NHL star when I was younger and has been there the whole time. I think we're around the same age. And to me, he feels like this callback to the older time in the league at a different level of my fandom for hockey. And I love him and Malkin. I love how good they are. I love the players that are so good. Every time you count them out, they know how to win and they know how to get it done. And if they could squeak out just one more cup, how cool would that be? Washington. They don't have that much of a different roster other than, losing Holtby. They traded Vrana for Mantha. Tom Wilson. They won a cup with him. Could these guys win another cup? Could Ovechkin be a 2-time cup winner? Or is he going to rest on his laurels and be happy that he's won one and it's near the end of his career? I think he sat out a game or two. So I'd be interested if they went far, but also the thing with that I always watch is they won a cup with Barry Trotz. Then Barry Trotz left the next year and took the Islanders pretty far. So I'm actually more interested in how far the Islanders can go. Because could you imagine being a fan and the coach who finally gets you to the promised land, you don't pay him a couple million more to keep him? At least for like a 3-5-year contract, whatever. You just won the fucking cup with him and you let him walk? So I'm actually very interested to see what the Islanders can do and see if he can win a cup with 2 different teams. He's all of a sudden a legend. Boston. Every time you count them out, that one line keeps you in. And their management knows when to let guys go. They're the opposite of Vancouver, and that's why they got rid of Jim Benning. Man, because they are so smart with knowing when to let guys go. Like Zdeno Chara. If this was the Canucks, they'd hold on to him forever. They'd give him a lot of money. They said, all right, you're old. We got to make room. Thanks a lot for winning us those cups and being probably the main reason we won them. Thank you so much. You're off to Washington. Actually, that's another reason to be excited about Washington. Could Chara take them deep? Will Chara awaken in the playoffs? Boston, every time you watch the highlights, it's like Boston's down 2 goals. They scored 3 goals in the third period. That fucking line. Marchand, Pasternak, Bergeron. And now they got Taylor Hall. Can Taylor Hall recover his form? Was New Jersey just a blip? Is he actually kind of a loser who chose to go to Buffalo instead of a different team on a short-term contract? Did he go for the money? Now he's in Boston? Can he find his way? I want him to. Can he excel? Could he lift Boston to another cup? Look, Boston beat the shit out of the Canucks in 2011, so I've hated them for a long time. But you got to move on, and I would be very interested if they could do it again, to be impressed by it, and also for Hall. The Islanders, like I said, I want to see Barry Trotz, see what he can do. The Rangers are out of it. That is locked up. The North, Toronto. I'm not putting that out on my screen. Toronto. So much pressure on these guys. They need to win a round. If they win a round, that's their Stanley Cup. They've got a great team, obviously, from what they've done. But you also see them against the Canucks, and man, I think they lack where it counts. And it's not like an old hockey man. Oh, they're not tough. They don't have the grinders, and they've brought in some more tough guys. But it's more of an overall killer instinct. You need to be able to fucking put your foot on the neck of the competition. You need to be like Boston. And Toronto is the opposite of that. They have a lot of depth. So much depth. Their cast-offs are playing on the Canucks' third line. But can they put it together and put a team down? Can they dig deep in times of trouble? Will Mother Mary come for them, or will they just let it be? Edmonton, same thing. So much talent. You want to see Matthews and McDavid get to the playoffs. These are generational players. They deserve to play in some meaningful games. And you want to see McDavid go out there. Yeah, okay, you might hit 100 points in 56 games, but what if you had, fucking 14 points in 7 games? 7 goals in a 7-game series. One of the that's what we really want to see out of Matthews and McDavid. Go out there, take over a series, and will your team to the next round. Winnipeg, man, I think they've coasted on Hellbuck for a long time. Their defense has just been so weak. They have a good offensive core, and I think that their offensive forwards are built for the playoffs. They're kind of nasty players. They're tough. They all look like pricks, and that's what you want for your forwards. And a guy like Kyle Connor just knows how to score. Montreal, they're fun because their fans are super passionate. The team's super passionate. You got Gallagher, Anderson. Carey Price would be a nice story to see him have another run at it and finally win a cup. I don't think they can do it. Definitely not, but they might win a round or something, but it'd be kind of interesting. And then that division's basically sewn up right there. So that's it. Look at the lowly Canucks down there with only 48 games played and 43 points. So let's say they go, how many games in hand is that? 5 games. I mean, if you go 50-50, you're only getting 2 points more on that. 4 points more, let's say. So that's going to tie you with Calgary. It's a battle for 5th place at this point. I just hope the Canucks get a lottery pick. But yeah, that's who I'm interested in seeing. And who would I want to see win the most? Last year, it would have been Barry Trotz. I would love to see Colorado, Vegas, Tampa, Carolina, Florida, Pittsburgh. I like Ovechkin, Boston, Toronto, all the teams I basically just said. I want to see what they're going to do. So the playoffs can be interesting. Who do I not care for that's in a top 4 spot? Oh yeah, Minnesota, St. Louis, and Nashville. But other than that, every other team that's in a playoff spot locked in right now. Not locked in, but there. I'm excited to see. Who are you excited to see in the playoffs and why? If you watched this, and if you're hearing me talk right now, you did. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you next time.